Well, welcome back, everybody. Last video I recorded was a bit of a primer on a list that I had created a while ago called Magneto, which was a Brotherhood variant list that was kind of built upon the idea of moving and helping Magneto around by using a character that complements and works really well with him, a partner in crime by the name of Ebony Maw, and in particular, Space Maw. Now, if you've been around the MCP community for a while, or hung out in any of the discords, or ever played a game against me in any sort of amount of a time, you've probably heard me rant about Space Maw. Well, there's a good reason for that, because I friggin' love this guy. Uh, AMG recently made the correct decision to unban or unrestrict the Space Gem, which they restricted in the first place because I assume Maw was too powerful. Uh, the entire Discord's community, everybody, all of the game community, was just all in an uproar saying Maw is broken. Uh, he's oppressive. He makes Thanos too good. He Let's also ban the reality gem for other reasons, I guess. But Maw's the real problem here. Had nothing to do with Thanos about why these gems got restricted. All Space Maw. That's because he's that freaking good. My opinion, probably one of the best six threats in the game. Um, and you might be asking yourself how that could be possible to take this what is an otherwise middling five threats and how does he become like a great six threat? Uh, how does he go from a legitimate five threat stat card here, and how does that just a gem turn him into a telekinetic powerhouse, if you will? How does that happen? It's all the space gem. Okay. This guy was entombed, imprisoned for good reason. He is a menace with this thing. He is one of the best range damage dealers in the game when he has it. Uh, to be honest with you, over the course of a game, just a quick preview on a few things that I'll probably bring up later. He outpaces Scarlet Witch damage wise. And I'll kind of say this he outpaces Cosmic Ghost Rider damage wise. Uh, in different ways. So let's just kind of put that qualifier out there. But there's a bit of nuance to this character, and it's a bit of a preference thing in a lot of ways about how he works as compared to some others. But uh, I'm going to also mention this. I think he is so good that he is my ranged sixth threat of choice in my Guardians of the Galaxy roster. So if you've ever been anywhere around, too many of the TTS leagues, or if you've ever uh, played a game with me in person, or if we've ever been able to pick up a game against each other anywhere, like I would say about 90% of the time over the last couple of years, I've been running Guardians. Um, and Maw's been in a lot of those rosters for the vast majority of those games. Uh, I did replace him eventually, and Hulk kind of took the spot. So, uh, that being said, like Cosmic Ghost Rider comes out, Hulk still exists. Do I think Hulk is better as an overall six threat? Yes, I think you can plug him in any situation. He's arguably the best model in the game. Do I think Cosmic Ghost Rider is better? I think it's a matter of choice and preference. Uh, I personally prefer Space Maw. And when I say prefer, it's not because I love him, which I do, but the reason I love him is because I think he's good. And it does also kind of make you feel a little bit better when he kind of feels like a bit of a weird outlier in this game, to where, in a similar vein to Thanos, you start putting some gems on him, and what is an otherwise kind of like okay six threat is somehow a really great 8 threat. So uh, that works very similarly with Maw. And it's just because the Space Gem is so damned powerful, right? And with Maw, it sets up everything that he does. It takes a character that, in my opinion, at 5 threat is worse than Scarlet Witch, worse than Doctor Strange, worse than all these other range characters, and he is nowhere near being able to touch Cosmic Ghost Rider. You add this into the kit, and we're talking about an entirely different beast. Now, all it does is give him an extra power generation per turn, which is noteworthy. This guy generates 4 power per power phase, which is phenomenal. But it's really about the action economy and how much of a bully it makes him. So, without further ado, let's get into the stat card a bit. He does have an acceptable gainer for a 6 threat. Um, what's really key about it, though, is the wild trigger. Phenomenal wild trigger. Being able to advance a model um, just off of a wild trigger is great. It's why he's a great fit in Guardians. I think he'll be a great fit with Wild Steve, which is the new core box Steve. Guardians, he's going to have about a 70% chance to hit that wild trigger with the winging it rerolls, and I think it's somewhere around 58 to 60 without them. So we could just be advancing a model or 2 models, in one round more often than not, right? So either way, if you double tap into somebody, odds are you're going to be able to move them. And it doesn't cost you anything other than just doing the attack that you're going to do anyhow. The Spender, I think, is one of the best in the game for multiple reasons. But uh, anytime that you can get a Spender that allows you to go into models and it doesn't give them the ability to generate power, I just think it's very very powerful. Now it works well into his kit. You know, in particular, better than a lot of other people that have this kind of similar ability. Cosmic Penance Stare is a beefy 12 dice version, but the difference between that and this is that this is range 4, and Cosmic Penance Stare is range 2. Womp womp. Cosmic Penance Stare also has a great trigger on it, but honestly, if you're throwing out a 12 dice attack with a guy counting skulls, I really don't know if that trigger matters a lot. You're probably doing a lot of overkill, which is part of the reason why I actually kind of prefer this spender in a weird way because of the wild trigger. Now, uh, and the range and the cost. This is only 4 power. You can technically do it every turn if you wants to, at least once. Um, that being said, being able to get your wild trigger and throw a size 2 model omnidirectional uh, just provides a little bit more utility to this. Now, I realize it's only size 2. If they made this size 3, I might be actually making the argument that Maw is every bit as good as Hulk. Because that would just be pretty busted, right? You'd be talking about 4 incoming damage to a model that he throws somebody into, plus the model that he threw taking 1 damage, should they have survived the original attack. And it is omnidirectional, so it can also work as displacement. Uh, for tactical reasons and other stuff. But size 2 is perfectly fine. That's still going to do 3 incoming damage to an opponent character that you're throwing him into, or in the 1 there. So that's just 4 guaranteed damage going at your opponent. One of which is the actual guarantee that they can't do anything about. So when you're talking about this attack versus a Cosmic Penance Stare, which is 12 dice, that's going to do a little bit more damage. When you start getting into the triggers and the lower costs, and the fact that this is at a range 4, it's a closer battle than you might think. Especially when you get that kind of oversaturation of damage in the models where that other one's kind of going over the top. And it's also on a character that doesn't generate power as well natively, obviously, as Maw does. Now, can Cosmic Ghost Rider generate 6 power in 1 power phase? He can. There's a 3% chance that happens. The odds of Cosmic Ghost Rider getting 4 or more in 1 power phase is roughly 50-50. So he could also get 3 or less 50-50, right? With Maw, it's 100% of the time you're getting 4. So the consistency there is massive. And I'm getting a little bit distracted in kind of comparing the two. Uh, I don't really do a very good job of always staying on task here, folks. I don't script these too much. This is kind of just a free flowing thing off the mind, so bear with me. Now, moving past that digression, we move on to another type of collision damage, and this is really one of the most important things about Maw's kit. Telekinetic powerhouse, right? We kind of joked about it earlier. That's exactly what this guy is. Uh, he has arguably the best singular throw in the game. And when I say singular, it's better than Magneto's throw in the sense that Maw can throw a size 4 from range 3 long for 3 power. That costs Magneto 4. Magneto can obviously throw other things, which is probably why Magneto's is better, because you can do more than one a turn. But as far as when we're talking singular throw, this is the best in the game. Nobody throws like the Maw. And there are other characters that'll have the range 3, size 4, but they're all medium. The difference between a medium and a long, massive, right? So we'll kind of show you that and list some measurements later. And in my opinion, when you start adding in the collision damage and what I was talking about with like the spender, you start adding in this collision damage. This is what really puts this model in a category amongst and by himself in a damage category. This is what makes Hulk a phenomenal damage dealing character. He's got all these throws, all this collision damage. This is why when I kind of said this guy has the ability to put out more damage per round than a Cosmic Ghost Rider, that it's actually possible. It's collision damage. Cosmic Ghost Rider hits like a truck. Fantastic. Not denying that. Not at all. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Scarlet Witch. Great damage dealer. There are some things that hold her back, and we'll talk about that. But when you have this long throw, you have this collision damage. It is massive. It is the thing that bridges the gap and gets you the ability to daze multiple models per round. Maw could potentially daze 3 or 4 or even more models in a round, depending on which affiliation you're taking them in, right? And I realize 4 is probably a bit egregious, but 3 really isn't quite outside of the realm of possibility. You have models on, 2 or 3 health left, 2 black tongues, and a throw into a third. Boom, 3 days models. Very reasonable. Cosmic Ghost Rider, at his absolute best, is only capable of dazing 2 models in 1 activation. That's it. So, right there, to me, that is a big advantage for Maw, just having this throw. The fact that it is such a quality throw, and the fact that he's generating 4 power a turn. And this is online every turn. Okay? Even if, for some reason, you get stun on you, it's not the worst thing in the world for Maw. It's not the worst thing in the world for him to be poisoned, right? Because the gainer, it's going to give him the extra things that he needs to get there. He's going to have this throw going off a lot, right? Now, we're going to move into something else here, and this is another thing that really ties his kit together, is that he's excellent at dealing with collision damage going into him because of telekinetic deflection. Again, this is going to be online every turn. People can throw... You can go up against a Magneto, throw 2 terrain at you, you spend 2 power, you're taking 0 damage from it. Kind of important when you've only got allegedly 2 physical defense, at least to dodge with. Now, the real thing that I love about Maw, what makes him playable in a lot more affiliations than, say, like a Wild Steve or just a Guardians list, is mind over matter. Now, this exists in a few characters in the game, or something similar to it. You've got Mysterio, who's got the 1-1-5. You have to pay 2 power to bypass him. I love this. I love it on Mysterio. Enchantress also has something, right? She's got the 2-2-4. Maw's, on the other hand, though, is 2-4-6. Okay, so you got to pay 2 power to get into that juicy 2. Now, if you put this guy in Convocation, they can't bypass because you're going to have an Ironbound Books turn, right? Uh, Maw's defense in Convocation now becomes potentially 646. And I'll give a bit of a news flash for a lot of people, but paying 2 power to deal with 4 energy defense with a range model that in a lot of cases can give himself cover because of his movement abilities amongst other things and yada yada, it just isn't worth it. So, you know, Space Maw, being the beast that he is coming at you potentially with say 666 defense in Convocation. Now, other reason why you, even if he doesn't have cover and you're going into that 4 defense, for you to pay 2 power, right, and get down to the 4, if you've only got a gainer, you're spending 2 power to gain 1. You're just losing power throughout the game. If you're doing a builder, reducing the, you know, the dice by 2, all you've done is probably take away a block from me by taking away 2 dice. Um, I'm still likely gonna get, 2-ish, right? And what's the difference between 2 and 3 is okay, you generate a power. If you're doing like a 5 dice attack into him or a 6 dice attack, you're probably gonna get like 3 to 4 successes. If you get 4, which would be a pretty decent attack for 6 dice, it'd be great for 5. Uh, and I still block 2 out of my 4 dice. You're only getting your power back. It's not really doing anything. Now, if you get 3, which would still be a pretty decent attack, it'd be okay. It'd be average for a 5. It'd be a little below average for a 6. That's a net -1 loss. So a lot of people, when they're at the builder gainer stage, just won't even opt for it. Now, most people don't even bother with mystic attacks. Um, what makes Maw such a bully too is that at the beginning of the game, nobody really has the ability to bypass this. Okay. The other thing that makes him extraordinarily special, and we go back to this, is the range. Okay. He's got 2 range 4 attacks. So when he's doing his attacks and he's setting things up for himself, and because his throw has such a distance on it, he can really, really operate pretty far back. And he's more than often or not able to be outside of range 3 of most any model in the game. Now that's really important because believe it or not, there aren't a lot of ranged physical attackers in the game. And the one that did exist that could really kind of mess with Maw on the cheap, unless Maw killed him first, of course, was our friend old Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Uh, and the reason why Bucky was a bit of a nuisance more than some of the others is that he had a range 5 physical attack that was a builder. Okay, so 4 dice into 2, I'm probably blocking 1. He's probably hitting for 2. And he's gaining that power every time, but he hits 1 spike. Next thing you know, he can afford to bypass and pay for that all game, and plus he's getting the rapid fire, so he's getting power back. And he can do some pretty nasty things into Maw if he gets a bit juiced up, right? Well, now that that's a wild trigger, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Bucky around anymore. So he had that one real range attack that kind of gave us problems. Now, we've talked about the big one that doesn't really exist anymore. How many real ranged attackers that can attack from range 4 or beyond really exist in this game with physical attacks? Now, I'm not talking like a Sorcerer Supreme Strange who can change it, or I'm not talking about Defender's leadership that can choose to make it physical. You pay 1 power and then pay 2 more to do physical, so you pay 3 power to do a gainer, maybe? I don't know, like, doesn't seem very cost effective to me, but hey, do you, right? That being said, we're talking about people with just like natural gainers or builders that are just range 4. Okay. Now, if we're talking spenders and people that are all juiced up on power and they've got a physical, yeah, they're probably going to bypass them, right? That's fine. Uh, but if we're just talking gainers and builders, which are going to be occurring at the midpoints of the game, or maybe people can't afford to spend for a spender that might be of a decent range and the bypass, we're still talking like mid rounds. And if you're doing your matchups correctly and you're kind of placing them around the board correctly, you can kind of dictate these matchups, right? And so who really goes into them? there's actually not a lot of them that exist within the game. There's Agent Venom, who's a range 4 physical attacker. That's a builder. Uh, that's one of the ones that you uh, could use against Maw. He's got good action economy because of the web swing. You know what Agent Venom really doesn't like doing? Doesn't like spending power on something like that. He's got a billion other things that he would rather do with his power. He loves spending power on offense, right? His whole entire kit is built for just spending obscene amounts of power in one turn, and it's so beautifully layered out. I could go on and on about how much I love Agent Venom. If you've seen any of these videos, you've probably heard me talk about my love for him. He's my favorite, like one of my favorite offensive characters in the game. Point is that he doesn't really want to be spending 2 power just to shoot at Maw and get his power refunded, or maybe a little bit extra. He just doesn't want to do it. Um, I think there are other things he'd rather be doing with it, right? Now, that being said, there'd be certain matchups for it where he could be pretty great, but he's just kind of one that exists. What else is there? There's, people like Bullseye, but that's just a gainer, right? There's, there's, like I said, there's the Sorcerer Supreme Strange. He can pay 1 and then pay 2, so he can spend all of his power to bypass Maw. How many people are really hurting him though on like a turn 1? How many people can actually afford to bypass him? If you put Maw on the midline of the board, you can run up a Hulk. He can Gamma Leap and then punch Maw, and then he can't afford to bypass on turn 1. So the point that I'm making to you is that as far as like ranged attacks and people that can really go into the guy, there's a very limited amount of persons that can do it. Now, people can charge at him. People can do all this stuff, but they're going to have to spend power. Okay? So, there's, like I said, Agent Venom. There's really not a lot more. I'm going to kind of go down a little bit of a list here and see what I can think of. Now, if you guys are aware of anything that I'm not, that is an actual builder that is range 4 physical, I'd love to hear it. Because in my world where I don't sleep too much, Hawkeye, that's the dude I was thinking of. Yep, Hawkeye is one that could be a problem for Maw. He still can't afford to bypass his defense on turn 1. But for the rest of the game, yeah, Hawkeye tears him up. So Hawkeye would be the one of the decent models into him. Now Maw, obviously, I think can dunk on Hawkeye before that happens. I don't think you're worrying too much about the quick draw ability. If you really need to with Maw, bit of a flash forward, you use Shush to shut it down. Don't allow him to do it, then you just kill him. Now, there's probably better uses for the old Shush, but that is potentially one of them. Oh, yeah. Nick Fury Sr. I believe has the ability, or has a range for physical. Come on, Cerebro. Wake up, sleepyhead. There we go. Range 4 physical, but it's only a gainer. So I've literally had to go through the mental gymnastics of all this. So if nobody can really afford to bypass him early in the game, who's like a natural predator for the guy? Early in the game, he stands alone. 6'6 defense, 6'6". That's what really sets him up. So it sets him up in Convocation for him doing some stuff. What sets him up in Guardians, all these other things. The power generation there being great as it is, yada yada, right? All right, so we've got that rant about the stat card done. So we're going to get into what makes this model, in my opinion, the real meat and potatoes. And we're going to be showing you some things with the gems, okay? So I've mentioned that he is dominant on turn 1. I've brought him in here on 2 lists that I really like him in. My favorite spot in the world for him is Guardians. I love that extra wild trigger. I love the turn 1 pressure, okay? now that Malekith is kind of gone, and by the way, Maw was actually pretty good into Malekith, right? Malekith not always being able to kill him immediately, getting ferocity shushed, great stuff there. Uh, we'll talk more about that tactics order. I'll just bring it up a bunch, but if you're not familiar, we'll actually finish this up as far as Maw. Shush, same thing as No More Mutants. Range 3, Maw spends, or range 5, Maw spends 3. If you do an active superpower, like if you try to charge into Maw, you try to Gamma Leap at Maw, or you try to throw a model off a point, or you try to do something, Maw can just shut down your superpower. If you're Doctor Strange and you're sitting here trying to boost dice for Iron Fist to keep him alive because he's counting blanks or something, right? Maw shuts it down. They still spend the power. They can't use it again. You shut down Dynamo's ability to re-roll dice. You do all that stuff. There's phenomenal things you can do with it. If you see that somebody's about to run across the board and pick up an extract that they need to win the game or something, or I will tell you a funny story. I was playing against a Brotherhood team a long time ago. It was probably my favorite use of Shush because it's such an interruptive card, right? The best time to use it is at really pivotal moments of the game. There's kind of an obscure tactics card that is a bit memey, but potentially like awesome in Brotherhood, and it's called Difficult to Please. And uh, I think the conditions on it, just going off the top of my head, are that you need to uh, daze somebody with Scarlet Witch and then pick up an extract or do something with Quicksilver. I think pick up an extract, and then you can take an activated token off of Magneto and reactivate him. If you played a lot of Brotherhood, getting 2 activations with Magneto is pretty freaking hot, right? So Witch dazes one of my characters, and they drop an extract, and I've got like a Quicksilver. He's like over here, and the extract's like over here. So he's gonna do Speedster, but I've got Maw like kind of in the middle, and I've just been kind of brutalizing Quicksilver, and he's been trying to stay away from that. So he plays Speedster, and I kind of catch it, and I realize that he's going for the extract, and he had Difficult to Please. And as soon as he tried to play Speedster from here to here, to get that long move off, I just shushed it because I knew that he couldn't reach it with just the 2 long moves otherwise. And he was so sad because it ruined Difficult to Please. It was like at a really pivotal moment of the game. And I think he might have actually done a movement action first. So he ran out into the middle of the board and then tried to play Speedster and then realized he had to move again. So I shushed the Speedster and he just got stranded in the center of the board. And then like the next turn, I activated Maw and just killed him. Right. So opponent just like kind of quit at that point, and it was just conceded and felt really bad. But that's the sort of things you can do with that card. You just interrupt things. Just sheesh. Uh, it's so great. If you've seen the Maw from the MCU, right? The shush scene, and Maw's scenes in that movie are just like flat out some of the best that exist. But I digress again. Great tactics card. You can just shut down just about anything. It can be used to some really hilarious effects in the past. One of the reasons that I really loved Maw was in the past you needed to have like an anti-Thanos plan before the restrictions came about, right? And what I would do with Guardians is I would just go as hard as I could into the Mind Space Thanos, which was the Thanos that was popular at the time, right? Um, and you go really hard into him because he's a little bit easier, well, a lot easier to kill when he doesn't have the Reality Stone. Um, and as soon as he would, try to activate, you go as hard as you can into him on like turn 1, turn 2. As soon as they feel that they need to activate him, because maybe he might daze or something, he's going to try to get that late activation that's going to allow him to reset and move everything around the board. When he's sitting on like 8 power or something, and he goes to start trying to cosmic portal stuff, just shoosh, no more cosmic portals, right? Just 0. Maybe he gets a space gem himself and then mind gem somebody. And then you just finish them off. Cosmic portals get shut off in the entire game, and when you've got a Thanos that maybe does only one cosmic portal in a game back in the day, and then gets none after that, pretty good, right? So was great tech there. Again, great into ferocity, great into so many other things. Okay, moving forward. Finally, we're going to get into the best part of what it is that Maw does. So, with him fitting into some of my rosters, I love that turn one pressure. I love the fact that he's a turn one bully. Okay, we've already talked about the defense. Nobody can F with our Maw. He is pretty much safe on turn one. Uh, Crazy things have happened. I've had a bullseye one shot him on turn one. How, you might ask? Well, when you block one dice out of six and bullseye rolls 8 successes, that's right, folks. 4 criticals that turned into 4 successes into your Maw, and you take 7 damage. Yes, it is possible for you to die. Now, is that probable? No. Are you going to take a lot of damage on turn one if you run them up into the center of the board against a team? Eh, not a lot, right? I think in a lot of cases you can be pretty safe. So, opens up a lot of things. Now, offensively is where it really shines. I used to not be a big fan of bringing Research Station around with Guardians. I didn't like it because of the threat value and because Malekith existed. Uh, and I felt that he was just a bad matchup for Guardians. Well, now that Maw's back, he's a Research Station specialist. Because with Research Station, people have to stand next to it, it doesn't move. And that's really what Maw wants. It is a fantastic time. So we've got our deployment off. We're going to do some quick measuring here. And we're going to talk a little bit and very briefly about how you're going to select a board edge for things with your Maw and what you're looking for. Now, again, I've mentioned that he's going to be able to clear out the terrain from whatever side he's on. When you're selecting your board edge, just choose whatever where the size 4, the largest stuff is. Now, these two options, both being size 3, the thing is they're out on the flanks. Now, this is also a size 3. He's going to be able to throw that, but that's also not size 4. Okay? He's not going to be able to throw all 3 of these, but he can probably get 2 in a game. In my opinion, if you start out in the middle of the board and you put yourself on the side where the size 4 is, you're probably throwing that size 4 anyhow. Plus, you'll get to one of these eventually, or one of these, and then any of this other stuff like this, that's all getting thrown too. Now, if you go to this side of the board, right, you get this, and probably that. I kid you not, it can be like that. That entire potential part of the board can be completely cleared out. Now, if you are playing on Researcher, and this is really where Maw starts to shine, I will just use an enemy strange as a fill-in for anybody. If you're playing against a Maw or some of these other, high pressure models that can displace you, uh, or that just hit like a truck, which, speaking of trucks, right, Maw does. When you have these models that are out here at max 4, and it's on something that there has to be something on. Now, he's max 4 back. Not max 4 back, but excuse me. He is maximum distance away from me. Okay? That is the maximum distance possible that he can be away. Okay? And still be able to interact with that objective. Maw can just move himself up here. Now, I'm going to unlock these because that is annoying. Didn't realize that was a thing. Eh. Okay. All right. Well, whatever. Point is, it's going to annoy me. I'm just going to move these out of the way for now. Why can't I move that? Hey, all right. Okay, now those things are there. Okay. they don't really need to be. They're not going to be doing us any favors with Maw, except for the fact that you can be cognizant of that if you're playing on a D shape like this, secure, right? And the reason we brought up this D shape because it allows us to also think about things like hammers or some of the other C line extracts. And because we have this going down the middle with this, it shows our ability to do things in the middle of the board. Now that I'm not so completely and utterly, uh, you know, slotted over, I can show you an honest to goodness actual range measurement. So we have some range to spare there. If you try to take a look at the shadow, range to spare. Okay. So if you get some weird terrain in the way, at the beginning of your turn and you need to maybe not be able to place the maximum range 3 off of your deployment line, you do have a little bit of wiggle room to work with, and he doesn't need to be completely dead center across from somebody. So the reason why this is so valuable into so many models is that being able to double tap somebody on turn 1 is what really sets him apart as a damage dealer from a Scarlet Witch. Okay, and it's why researchers and he's so oppressive on it. It allows you as a Guardians player to take up somebody like Bill, maybe not your last activation, but your second to last activation, and run him up there. Now, we'll go a little bit more into some of this Guardians talk here in a bit, but when your opponent doesn't have the ability to come up there with another model, you're either going to win that, or at worst, you're going to tie it. Okay? Now, you get some more options with Maw to be able to move people off of it and do some other stuff, but if they come up there early, I don't even care what model it is, I'm blasting them. Okay? So, it is a 6 dice attack. More often than not, you're going to get a wild trigger, and that is going to take them off of the point. 70% chance in Guardians, like I said, 90 something under Steve when he pays that extra power. Now, what's beautiful about this with Maw is you go and you spend the 2 power for that gem. If I double tap into this model, and let's say that I just get the 1 advance, okay? And we'll just put him over there, right? Maybe he moved up early. Maybe I've got a Star-Lord or an Agent Venom or other people waiting nearby, and they just want to bash him up. Okay? Maybe this model came up there and grabbed him on Tessie Book, didn't have a safe extract. Again, if you're playing in MCP nowadays, you almost have to have a safe extract plan. If you don't, it's really hard for you to succeed with a competitive roster, right? You still have fun, but probably not going to be extremely successful. Now, I move that character there right in towards my team if I want to. The reason why this is great, though, is that it's omnidirectional, okay? I could have moved him backwards. I can go anywhere with his advance. But the reason I want to move him in is because now I've spent my 2 power for my gem. I've done my gainer. I am at 3. I take this size 3 truck, and I throw it at Strange, okay? So if I measure for myself range 3 onto this truck, obviously I can throw it there. Now, look at the range on this beauty, okay? Something to be mindful of, sadly, and probably for the benefit of people in this game, if you take a look at those shadows down there, right? You'll notice that from my max range 2 placement to where their edge is going to be right there, I can't hit them with a long throw. So you do need to get this advance to work. 70% chance followed by, a 58 to 60% chance. Odds are they're moving once. Now, if they don't, oh well. You're going to end the round with 4 power. You're going to start out the next round with 8. So they're going to have a bad time either way. Now, if you do get the advance, you just take up your lovely truck that you're standing on, if you so desire, or maybe you just value the cover because this is a D shape and you're standing on it. Cool. You got your backline covered. You've now got this model that you've brought in. You take this truck, you take this dumpster, throw it at him. Maybe you want to try to get Brace burn out a little bit early. If you're playing in a game, there's just going to be other terrain around. Now, if next round you still don't want to throw, let's just pretend, right? You can always space gem over, get next to that car, throw the car at Strange, right? Or you can just, of course, throw the truck. If for some reason they decided to brace on turn 1 off this dumpster, this thing's going bricked right into his face next round, and he is not going to have a good time. So you can really make some high pressure type things happen. Now, you get 2 advances. obviously, Strange, you're having a bad day. Now, that's just what he can do directly across from something. Okay? So, if I'm really talking about this character from a pressure perspective, and he is a phenomenal pressure character, and I think he's also very good on D shapes. Okay? And if I'm saying that I prefer him over Cosmic Ghost Rider, you look at this model over here and you say to yourself, well, if my Cosmic Ghost Rider rolls power pretty well, I can get over there and mess with him. If my Maw simply has a space gem, I can get over there and mess with him 100% of the time. Okay? Let's go ahead and just redrop these tokens real quick. And I can also throw this size 3 or size 4 truck at them 100% of the time. Now, this might seem a little bit far-fetched, but I will in fact show you that it is not. This is no big consequence for Maw, okay? And the reason why I really wanted to have this D shape out here is because we can talk about stuff like hammers too, right? You can just put Maw in the center of the board. When you have priority and you play on hammers, or if you play on Montesi or a bunch of other stuff, just opens up an entire world of possibilities. But a lot of times, if you have priority, you can come up and do your safe extract grab with your bill, right? Using eyes on the prize. Maw has a built-in safe extract play using eyes or without eyes, which is another thing to take note of. That he can just innately do on his own, right? Just by existing, he doesn't need eyes because he has the space gem. But what can happen is you do your safe extract grab with Bill, right? Because you've got priority. A lot of times opponents won't always bring a safe extract grab of their own. And if you're running on something like hammers and you have Bill and Maw on your roster, you get your safe grab here. A lot of times they're not going to bring eyes because they don't have priority and they just don't want to waste a tactics card slot. Against a team with Space Maw on it, that is a huge mistake. Okay? And the reason why is because, like I said, Maw gets over there and just makes people have a bad freaking time 100% of the time. So, 2 to Space Gem. And I'm just going to go directly over there as far as I can, just to show you guys the amount of an effect that this has. So I spent 2 for that. Now, I have all of this terrain at my disposal. Okay? This all goes all covered. Now, unfortunately, I've only got the 2 power. Fortunately for me, I don't need to do damage in order to get my terrain throw off, because it's a gainer. So I'm automatically getting up to 3, no matter what happens, okay? This is one of the rare characters in the game that I don't actually care if it's a builder or a gainer. Normally, everybody wants a builder. In some cases, this gainer can be really clutch, especially on like those rapid-fire characters, but pretty clutch here with Maw, because in an ideal world, especially against a character like Strange who hates collision damage, I just roll a wild, I do 0 damage, I walk him off this point while he's holding this hammer, and then I throw the truck at him. Right? Because he's not going to be able to bypass anything. He'll have spent to pick up like the hammer over there. You're going to have a bad time, right? And that's going to happen early in the game because they're going to come up and grab that hammer. So, if you're playing on intrusions, if you're playing on any of these D shapes, right? Any of this other stuff, you are going to just be able to dominate the midline game with him. Now, I've talked to like other really seasoned players. They said, if you come up to the midline with Maw out there on a researcher, like crazy. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm just going to let you have it. Like, cool. I get to win the researcher on turn 1 just by bringing a character in my list. Love it. You love to see it. Okay. What more could you ask for? Like, I can just walk up there with a Drax or a Bill and I win? Cool, right? Now I can move that thing back towards my team, which into a Guardians list. You're going to have a bad time, right? So that's all the things that he can get up to on turn 1 just by himself he is a turn 1 bully. Now, that is just the tip of the iceberg. One of the other lists that I really love to run him in is Magneto. And we're going to use some characters here as like proxies rather than as themselves because reasons, right? Now, the reason why it works really great in something like a Magneto and some of the dirty different little things you can get up to, especially on something like a C shape, if you're playing on intrusions, which is a fantastic crisis for Magneto, you get some really, really awesome options with your Magneto list. And a cool thing that you can do with a Magneto team is this is the only kind of measurement tool you're really allowed to have out on turn 0. It just so happens to be the range at which the Space Gem operates, okay? So you just get a ton of options with this. Being able to gem forward a Magneto, right? Saving the Asteroid M stuff, and giving him the ability to get onto the center line, or potentially be able to reach into a model. We'll just do over here, since he'll be able to reach. If they kind of go onto, or a little bit closer, you can see the amount of reach that this provides. Now, I'm going to end up having to delete this because it's going to get in the way. This was something that was kind of discussed the other day with persons, but people really underestimate the displacement value of a Magneto builder. That's an automatic push that is omnidirectional that is taking most models off of a point. Now, they have to be a full max range back, I believe, in order to avoid this. And then at that point, it is possible, I believe, yep. But if they can't get that full range back, or if they don't for some reason, you can really surprise some people by getting double attacks off with your Magneto on turn 1. Just by being able to do some stuff with Maw. Now, the reason why I kind of did that kind of offset deployment was because it gives you options on your turn 1 play with different models. Now, Magneto's a really cool example, but you can Space Gem Magneto forward, right, to be able to put him there to pressure the midline. And if this is a different extract, maybe this is Demons or Gamma, you just go ahead and take your Magneto, put him forward, right, to that maximum 2, and we'll just, again, I'm just going to let that happen, right? We're just showing that off. And then you take your Maw and you go out here and you grab an extract. Okay? So you've set up Magneto for big time success in run 1. You grabbed an outside extract. People are going to be kind of scared to go in the center of the board. It's going to give you time to do other things with your other models on that team. It just is a huge delaying tactic. Now, if they want to come in the middle and activate in front of your Magneto, cool. All the power to you. If they come in and go to a max range, they're going to have a hard time getting other models on there. One thing that you can do is you can bring up like a Juggernaut, and you can kind of clog that stuff up. Now, when you run Maw over here, again, reminder, people are not going to be able to really damage him. Okay? The other thing that's really great about him is he can cover a ton of ground. And so that helps him out on other crises. It actually, he moves much faster than you would ever really think. And when you factor in the range, being able to go from one side of a board to there, if for some reason we have a friend over here that is contesting this point, and even if they're on a small base, or a 35 millimeter base, I believe Maw still reaches them. But let's go ahead and test that theory real quick, right? Get our friend Baby Farf McGee's Drax out there. Drax does not care for fighting against Maw, by the way. Hey, Now, I did this with Maw, and I didn't even line up fully on this other side, right? That's just an example of what can easily happen in one round. Now, again, if I move him off the point and he had an extract, and this is turn 2, not only have I gone back in on my Gamma with Magneto, but I've pulled him in, and now I reach around and I say to myself, you know what? Let's throw this truck at him, because I didn't throw it earlier. Or let's throw this. Let's throw this. Let's throw that. Like, let's throw a construct. So all of these things, and I'm up there contesting the point. You put him next to Magneto, for example, you have got cover. People bypassing that and still having to deal with cover, all that other stuff. Horrible situation. Not ideal play in Guardians, though. Okay? Works with Magneto. With Guardians, you got to be a little bit more cagey with the guy. Okay? And that should reflect in your roster construction. And now we're going to kind of get on to the homes type of thing. So hopefully you can kind of see the power of what this guy does as far as pressuring the game and having an impact on stuff. Now you can be pretty haphazard with him in convocation, because by the time people start being able to bypass, you pop Ironbound books. You use a team like this that's going to have priority. They're dealing with 666 defense anyhow, because Maw's, a freaking beast. In Guardians, the way that I like to play my Maw is kind of similar to like an Agent Venom, except I don't really ever dive anything. If I do dive something, it's because I want to take away a point from somebody, or because I'm just trying to bully the board, right? Um, or because I've something like sacrifice, or maybe got a bodyguard around in a different Guardians list, right? But ideally with Maw, I'm tending to operate at and around places like this, where I can have the option to attack 2 points simultaneously while I've got people like Drax and Bill and Gamora working on these points. And again, I really like the C-shape stuff. I like intrusions. I like yeah, any D shape he can do a lot of damage into, because he has the ability to do so much for your team. The other thing that can be really underappreciated with Maw is that you can take him off of a D shape from something like back here, and he can still be impactful to the game. He can give you some D shape flexibility because he scores that point, he gems over, right? Now, if you've left your Star Lord there and you've rotated your Maw around, who knows what's going on, right? You gem yourself, and we're attacking this point more than likely. Then you take your Star-Lord, you do your shots from here, then you hit and run back onto the point on your second attack. You get a lot of rotating action and ability. Now, if you come up here with your Star-Lord and you don't have the ability to hit and run from here, maybe you take something like a Star-Lord, you do whatever, and this is going to be kind of showcasing some mid-round type plays and things that you can do, is if you take a Star-Lord and you move up here, you don't have enough ability you do a shot, you don't have the ability to afford a hit and run, whatever reason, right? Or you just want to come up in full auto. If you happen to have a Maw nearby, and we'll just actually use proper Star-Lord for what it's worth. If you have a Maw over here, maybe for some reason Maw isn't healthy or yada yada, you have the ability to help Star-Lord get around, okay? He gets onto points now, even if he doesn't have hit and run going for him, because you just wait for Maw to activate, and then you gem your buddies around, okay? Now, this could be a really great way to get people onto contesting things when they wouldn't expect it. So if you've got Maw there, and he's holding the point, somebody comes over and now they're on it, and you want to win that. If Star-Lord's already activated, oh, that's fine. I don't need to move Maw. I need to move Star-Lord. So he gives you a lot of play on these things. Getting back to a researcher point, I had a really, really great strategy going into a TTS League game that I was really proud of as far as when I concocted from a turn 0 standpoint, right? And I was really proud of it because I got it to work. And my opponent, to his credit, was playing against Hyper Viper, and he had an Avengers team. defeated me because he had a better thing that trumped me, and it was called Helios, and it happened at a weird time that I did not expect. But the strategy was sound. His Helios was better. I won't go into extreme detail about that, but it was a really cool strategy, and I'll talk about it really briefly. But this is really to go over the impact that Maw can have on a game. So we were playing on Researcher Infinity, right? Uh, if anybody kind of knows me and you've heard me talk, I love Agent Venom on B shapes. I like B shapes and Guardians because it's a fairly mobile team that has the ability to rotate around. I've got Researcher. I'm going to have Maw out there. I've got a B shape. I'm going to have Agent Venom out there, right? Okay. So this was Mutant Madmen. Sorry, and not Infinity, but Mutant Madmen and Researcher. Okay. So I've got an opponent Bill here. And then, you know, do I really feel like dealing with that? Not really. But what I want to do is I want to win the research. So I get my Bill up there early. And I've got my Maw back here covering my Bill, so he doesn't really want to come up there. People want to throw some crap at Bill, cool, whatever, that's fine. So I take Agent Venom during his activation, and I'm saving Maw for last, right? But the reason for it, oops, is not because I still have deployment lines on. It's because on this pay to flip, I want to come up here onto this B shape, roll for it, ideally get it, but that doesn't always work, right? And then I'm moving here, and I was kind of like made this kind of theatrical comment of like, well, maybe I can reach it because it is actually a bit closer than that. So you end up, maybe something like this, I think. Well, again, the flexibility of Maw, if he doesn't come up to the center of the board with Maw, I just go, right? I can rotate, or I can go over here and I can go protect my B shape. Because if he's not going to give me anything to shoot at, what is it that I can do? I can come over here and protect my Madmen, right? Or I can start rotating to this side of the board and go and help my team. But before I do that, if he brings up one model and I don't shoot them or I don't do whatever, I just take my Agent Venom and we space jam him onto the point. And now I'm winning that. And I can sit back here with Maw, I can shoot people, I can do all sorts of stuff, and I can do so from range. So that gives me the ability to take this Researcher, and I get to put it back over here towards my back corner, right? Which is exactly what I did, because all I really wanted to do was win this back point Madman, because he had a Toad over on this side. I just wanted to win this. Because even if he gets all these other points, if I move the Researcher over here into my corner, we're going to end up tied for the entire game. Somebody's going to have to break out and do something. Because of my ability to potentially consolidate my team all around one point, I felt that I could kind of build like a bit of a castle strategy with my superior range, with Maw having Mystic, all these other things that can kind of mess with some Avengers teams, right? Felt really good about it. Well, when I moved Agent Venom onto this a little bit later, after he'd activated and done some cool stuff, and then he gets Helios, that really messed some shit up. So props to that for being an excellent counterplay. You don't normally see a Helios that early in the game, but it was great. You love to see it. But that's just kind of the sort of the things that opens up with this guy, okay? Really cool stuff. So in Guardians, all the crises that you can run, he's fine on. He gives you great play on Gamma, everything. With Magneto, phenomenal fit with Magneto. Having cover, if somebody pays to bypass you, you're looking at probably blocking 2 every time. Anybody that's ever attacked into Rocket will tell you he's a lot more annoying than he should be for somebody that only has 2 defense, because a lot of times he's blocking 2 because of that stupid cover. Now, with Rocket already being hard to deal with and only having 3 health, imagine how annoying that is when you've got a character that has 7 under Magneto. And they're paying to bypass that. He's damn near immortal, right? Convocation. This is a kind of a cool list that you can do. I kind of like the regular Strange because he works really well with Ancient One. And honestly, you can do some really fun stuff there by boosting her dice. Anytime you're boosting somebody's dice and they have defensive tech that counts blanks, she's now rolling potentially 4 physical defense and counting blanks. Sign me up, right? Maw being able to help move Strange around, really valuable. Now, this is just like one kind of fun team that you can run here. All the displacement between here and here, plus this tactics card's being phenomenal, and Maw being a mystic attacker. He's great on Poldock turns. He still brings Shush. Fantastic card. You bring in something like Advanced R&D with these guys. Maw can work as a battery for that. All this other stuff. Almost forgot. So the Maw play patterns. The ideal Maw world that he wants to live in is this perpetual world of attacking, right? If you gem forward, double tap, and throw a piece of terrain, he ends it on 1 power. Next round, he's got 5. If he moves, gems around, gems to somebody else, double taps, throws terrain, ends the round on 2 power, right? So going into round 3, you're starting with 6. If you continue that cycle, by the time you're in round 4, you're starting the round out with 7 power, right? It's this wonderful perpetual cycle. Power is not an issue for the guy. But when I built, this roster, I wanted to have in mind the ability to do some cool stuff with advanced R&D. And between Wong, Maw, these characters can generate extra power. You can bring in a Sorcerer Supreme, play him with Maw. You can run a magic up in the front with people. You have the ability to do things with Ironbound books that can make him just super hard to deal with for a round or 2 out of a game. Phenomenal. Poldock turn, hits like a truck. It's going to be moving people all over the place. Fantastic. So the top 3 affiliations that I like Maw in, okay? Guardians of the Galaxy. I think when you have the ability to run up a character like Drax, Bill, and an attention-demanding range 2 kind of actual assassin character, it's how she more feels to me. You can now sit Maw back in the intermediate ranges. You can use him to work the extract game and provide you extra control, right? I played a game recently with Maw to where I ran a team on Scoundrels, right? And this was my 20 threat team, and it feels great. Actually, excuse me, I ran Agent Venom there instead of Gamora because he bypasses the cover. When you look at a Guardians team, you wouldn't think this, but there's a lot of displacement there. If you add in like the Agent Venom, he's got to throw. If Drax is throwing stuff, he's headbutting people. Bill, everybody knows about Bill's throw. Pretty freaking nanners. Maw moving people off of points, throwing terrain at people, because cover ain't protecting you from terrain. He loves having these models in front of him that can take a bit of a beating. Now, it's really easy to fit in tactics cards with Guardians and still be able to fit in Shish. One of the biggest bummers about not being able to run, or not choosing not to run Cosmic Ghost Rider and running Maw instead, Crew of the Milano is not nearly as good for Maw because you can't use it. Now, Shush is great, but Crew of the Milano on Cosmic Ghost Rider is a borderline cheat code. You can't stagger the guy, you can't do anything. Anytime you've got that kind of battle cruiser type model and you can't status effect them out of a game or slow them down to such a degree, pretty debilitating. But depending on like what it is that you're bringing with your roster, you've got Eyes on the Prize. Maw's got built-in plays on that, right? You've got Mission Objective. Maw can do things with that, but Mission Objective is just generally good. I have rotated that in over Fallback just because of the prevalence of Rhino. I don't like having extracts being taken off of me if I'm only holding like 1 or 2. I can live with losing the extract game by usually a point if I'm winning the secure game. But you start losing that parity thing by 2 points around, you got to do something about it. So if you can prevent that from happening in the first place, yeah, that'd be great. So mission objective for me, but yeah, you can rotate a lot of stuff in there. Now, I don't always, run like this sort of a beater list. But this is just a really great example of what I do like with him. Now you can take out a Gamora out of that situation. You can run Star-Lord, Drax here and there at 16, right? You can take a Drax out of this situation. You can plug in a Rocket to make a pretty cool 18 list. That is actually a lot of times what I run on Demons is I'll run Star-Lord, Maw, uh, Rocket Groot to sit on the back point and Bill in the middle, and then Maw just protects the center of the board by existing, right? So it gives you the ability to kind of maintain that extract stuff, and you got some jank there, but it's a viable 18, and he can help out Rocket and Groot a lot because, like I've mentioned, when he works with Magneto, he has the ability to help move his teammates around. Okay, and that can be really helpful for Rocket and Groot because people like to break them apart. Now, the second place that I like to have him a lot is that Magneto list. Phenomenal. I'm not going to get into a ton of that because I'm going to be doing some more content for them here soon. But the other spot is Convocation. Okay. Now, one of the negatives about running them in Convo is like you're basically bringing these tactics cards like every time. And yes, in my opinion, Shush is that good. Uh, Poldock, always good. Do you always need advanced R&D? Not always. But I think there's some unexplored territory here that I'd like to get into with this team. Now, as far as like a roster, this is kind of what I'm working with and tinkering on at the moment. Um, I don't think Maw is in every inclusion or every threat, every crisis type of guy. I don't think any model is really, unless it's Star Lord and he's your leader and he's just that flexible and the leadership's that good, right? Or if it's Sam, you just put him in anything and hey, cool, I'm good at the game, right? Uh, but in the same way, I wouldn't put Hulk onto every single thing. I don't have to put it in Maw, right? So you can do some pretty cool stuff with Convocation. Running Bowstranges, I know the preferred is this guy, but you know, I kind of like some of the stuff that this guy can do. So again, all the tactics cards, good stuff. There is some built-in eyes plays. I might end up dropping eyes for something else. Astral Ring is a lot of fun with this guy. Regular Strange and can be pretty cool on something here like Researcher or Gamma at 15. And I actually think this might be a fairly viable 15 list, which is why I wanted to show it now. The Guardian side, this is my competitive roster at the moment. I love it. I love everything to do with it. It works great. I get a lot of options. Cosmic Ghost Rider is just fine. I'm not going to sit here and denigrate people for uh, playing the guy. I I think he's getting a lot of new character shine, and I think characters like Maw have been forgotten. And hopefully, this video has reopened or reawakened some of the thoughts and hearts and minds about what you can do with this guy. I've been seeing a lot of everybody's favorite Mad Titan running around, even though he's been nerfed, right? Cosmic Portal only being once around. Haha. You're not quite what you were in the past, are you, buddy? Uh, has kind of made Thanos manageable. That being said, Maw getting his gem back and it not taking up one of those restricted slots in your roster, he's the same as he was last year. And before the ban, he'd gained a lot of popularity amongst competitive playing circles. He was good in X-Men because the cover was Storm, and he could really set up some really annoying turn one shenanigans with the Space Gem. He still can. Having the re-roll defensively is fine. Storm hopping off of him is fine. He's still a thing there, but yeah, it used to be probably the third best spot for him over Convocation, in my opinion, and was getting some love in Guardians. And honestly, in one TTS league, he was in something like only 6 rosters, 6 less teams than Hulk. He went from a character that was in 1% of rosters to like 14%. So we had ourselves a bit of a campaign to get this guy rolling, and a lot of people caught on to him. And so he is legitimately very playable. And hopefully this has kind of helped out with some of that. I've shown off what he can do on turn one, and that's really powerful stuff. He can stand up there. We've talked about how he can't really be messed with because of his defensive line, and some places where he's not even worth messing with, right? His damage output, again, to touch on stuff, over the course of the game, he does more damage than a Scarlet Witch. Oh, but she rolls skulls and she also has a terrain throw. Yes, but she doesn't have the action economy. As great as rolling skulls for successes is, if you don't have the ability to double tap somebody if they're in front of you, it's still rolling 6 less dice in a game and you're generating less power from it, and you're not getting your throw off as well because you have to use an action to walk around, right? So over the course of the game, Maw, with that damn space gem, that's what really makes him shine over a witch. Strange, as another ranged higher threat model, great. Same problem. Doesn't have the action economy. Doesn't have the options. Cosmic Ghost Rider has all the action economy in the world. However, he only has 2 forms of damage, and that's Hellfire Blasters and Cosmic Penance there. Now, they are great forms of damage, but that's it. Okay? He has great displacement, but it costs power. Okay? When I can take a Maw and attack onto a flank, I've got a 70% chance in a Guardians roster to move you off that point. It doesn't cost me any power. It just costs me an attack that I'm going to do anyhow. You know, for Cosmic Ghost Rider to go over there and do that, you know, he's going to go and attack. But in order for him to reach that model, he's having to spend a significant amount more to get over. He would still have to spend 2 and do a medium move to reach them, with the ability to pull them off at the point using chains, right? So he has to do the same stuff as Maw does, except that costs him 4. Now it's guaranteed, and he hits harder, but he's still not dazing that model on turn 1. More than likely, unless he spikes out, but you could make the same argument for Maw being able to spike out. Difference is, Maw's throwing terrain at them as well. So the ability to put in damage on turn 1 actually goes into Maw's favor. Now, the real big tipping point between the two is that the power generation thing. Now, I like Maw because I know exactly what I'm going to get every game. I know exactly what I can count on. I know exactly which matchups I want to be dealing with. And for the most part, in the same way that, like, if you guys have played enough Hulk out there, he gets around and does whatever he wants and attacks plenty. He's still great. The action economy is fine. Obviously, that's the case for Maw, who has that range 2. Sure, it's not a large base, but a range 4, he's going to be fine. Cosmic Ghost Rider, best action economy in the game. Let's not get it twisted. However, it's still only 2 days models, or just 1. Maw, with the collision damage and the ability to space gem opponent or himself and his teammates, you just get some really cool options there. You factor in the defense and the tax that it puts onto people, and it can just be he can be an oppressive model. I personally think that Maw is better in Guardians. I'm not just playing Maw because I love him and because he's weird looking, and because he's a lovable misfit in his own right. Because notice that when I'm talking about this character, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, he's great in Black Order. No, he's not. Like, Thanos wants the space gem. I think he needs it. So, you know, we're talking about a 5-threat Maw. Well, who's the 5-threat in Black Order? Well, that's friggin' Corvus. So what does Maw do? I don't know. I'm sure there are some things, but it's much better here than there, right? So, you know, if I'm going to say, like, does Cosmic Ghost Rider have probably spots where he's better than Maw? Yeah. Are other spots where Maw is better or maybe more appropriate than Cosmic? I would also say yeah, right? So it really comes down to how you're using them. Now, this isn't a character that you can just haphazardly always run up and just do whatever you want. This is a character that can manage his ranges extremely well. This is a character that can do a lot of things that opponents aren't always able to predict, that can underestimate. And when you have the ability to do these sort of things, right? To say, you know what? I want to do a safe X-Trap grab. Just because I have the ability to do it. If you're not going to come up and do anything, then I will just grab this myself and we can set up for next round, right? There's just not a lot of characters in the game that have this sort of autonomy. I don't need a tactics card, right? I still, after doing that, that's I've only spent 3 power. This kind of goes back to the convocation thing. I can advance R&D that power onto somebody else. Uh, Being able to advance R&D and extra power over to Strange, right? Supreme Strange, without having to use a Wong, and having that sort of flexibility to set up, a turn 1 scalpel, pretty good, right? So all sorts of really cool stuff we can get into with this guy. But, when you have the ability to go from a B shape, right? Something like this, and you need to start closing out a game, or you need to rotate, right? You can take yourself, you get over there, and if you need to, excuse me, we'll actually just drop one out there for you guys real quick to kind of show you just like how well he can actually play even a B shape. Because that's always the big concern on these, is that this is something that would otherwise favor teams that are movement focused, a lot of stuff like that. Well, Maw can certainly get around. Now I just kind of place him randomly up there on the front side of it, but if I need to get over to this other, or start affecting the other side of the board, I can get there very quickly. Okay. Now, one of the other powers that this guy has that our friend Cosmic doesn't is that in order for me to stop somebody from scoring this point, I don't need to spend 2 power to pull them off of it. In a lot of cases, I just need to exist. Maw has the ability to exist from one B shape to the other just by spending the 2 power. Wait a minute, did you say that I had to spend 2 power at Cosmic? Well, sure, but in order to get from here to there, right? Double move, pull somebody off. Well, if I spend 2 power with Maw to get over there, if I really want to, I can probably still throw something, because I'm probably going to have the power to do it at a later point in the game when you're starting to rotate. I digress again. Point is, character is a lot better than you'd ever think. The flexibility, the creativity that you can get into, it's just in a lot of ways like when I play somebody like an Agent Venom and I get power on them and I get all these options, like you can be so creative and so fun with it that you feel like a smart player when you can do some of these creative fun things with this guy. When you're moving an opponent, a teammate onto a point, when you're playing him in a Magneto team and you've got all these things layered up to prevent Magneto from getting thrown around, and you're throwing terrain all over the board and all this other great stuff. You just feel smart, like in some ways. And it's such a fun character to do it on because he's pretty unassuming. Um, but he's fun. I literally love this guy. He is so much to me. He's probably I think, the third funnest model in the game. I think number 1 is Ant-Man. That guy's a blast. I'd love transforming. To me, Agent Venom 2, Space Maw number 3. If I can put an effective character in my list that is fun to play, this guy is just awesome. I highly recommend him. This might be my longest video yet. I would not be surprised if it was. Let's take a look at the old timer, and no, I can't even see about that stuff anymore. Yep, longest video yet. Space Maw rant. Hour and 19 minutes. All just about this guy just hopping around the board, being crazy. I have to check it myself and put an end to this. Hopefully you guys have learned something. Hopefully you appreciate this. I mentioned kind of in other videos that I had written an article on Maw last year around, I believe, May for the Strike Better guys and their website. I believe this to be the spiritual successor. We've talked about what he matches up into a little bit, how he functions as a model, as far as like how he deals with other opponents, and these other opponents that can harm him. There aren't a lot of them. Now, yeah, sorry. Last thing I need to mention, Juggernaut. Bad news for Maw. Absolute poison. Keep Juggernaut away from him. Oleg, bad news for Maw. Okay? These models that can be extremely fast, that hit really hard physical, and that generate a ton of power, bad news for Maw. Other than that, you're good though. And you can kind of manage those. If they try to come running at you and all this other stuff, you just shush them and slow them down. You can do it with Hulk as well. The only thing is like with Juggernaut, you can't really, push him away or move him backwards. With Hulk, you can kind of manage it. Well, anyhow, got off topic again and rambled more. So I'm ending this. I'm calling it. That's enough. I could probably go on for hours more about this guy, though. I kid you not. I love this model this much. I think he's worth this much consideration. As a sixth threat, fits phenomenal into a lot of lists. Again, Guardians, Brotherhood, Convocation, some place to look at him. Avengers, under the new Wild Steve. Great spots. Of course, a lot of people are going to be getting under that guy. And that is it, folks. So if you want to take a look at that article that I wrote last year, I'm going to throw that down in the link. It shows out some more things on measurements. It actually was, I felt like, fairly well written. Probably part of the reason I haven't tried to write anything again is like, well, that was good. I think I've peaked, and we'll just call it there. Other reason, there was a lot of things going on in the game, and when this guy got restricted, and then a bunch of crap came out that changed things up, boy, really put me in a hard spot, because by the time I had that second article about ready to pop out, everything had changed. Well, now we're back. Looks like Maw's back on the menu, baby. So take a look at that if you like. There were a number of different ways that I was kind of promoting this guy, mostly through shit posting and memes. I still have a butt ton of them, although the Rogue Agents guys, where I was storing them in their Discord server, old Dizzard deleted them because he's a Maw hater. And after all the nice things I said about him over the years, he deleted my Maw memes, of which I had like way too many because they had a meme thing. But I still have a good amount of them. Maybe I'll be creating more. If you guys want to talk about Maw, you can find me usually in the Guardians forum, kind of prowling around in there, trying to help out Guardians players and trying to promote the affiliation, the brand. I'm in most of the Discord servers. You can always find me looking for a game in TTS. Usually, probably at least 5 days a week, I'll pick up a game. I am the Barn Cat in Discord. Feel free to leave a comment here, of course. I apologize for the length of this. You could probably skip through a bunch of it. I don't like to re-record things, therefore I won't. So, with that being said, signing out. Enjoy your Space Maw. Is Cosmic Ghost Rider better? I don't know. A lot of people will tell you that he is. Hopefully this can make you consider things a little bit more. And I'm not saying you have to do one over the other. You should probably go with this one because it's a hell of a lot fucking cooler. All right. Cheers.